Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Tonight Show. You already know what it is, man. Very excited to kick this thing off Tuesday nights, 9 p.m. You already know what it is. Like I said, frontline all the time, 49365. You already know what it is. My name is Biamechi. As always, I'm with JB.
What's poppin' B? What's poppin' faithful? The Tonight Show, man. I'm here for it. What we got going on the Tonight Show? What type of vibe we on? We like on some
You already know what the vibes are, man. When we first started our podcast, 49x365, we always did that. Primarily, it was late nights. After some of the kids went to sleep, and it's just you might want to get yourself a cup of something if that's what you do. You might want to roll something up if that's what you do, if you're so inclined. But it's just a different vibe. The morning shows are a little bit more hype. It's like after the game, or it's like Monday morning quarterback, or just you coming in hot. You going to work, you got the coffee, your adrenaline's going, you hot. But the late night, it's a different vibe. It's like let's talk about this from a different angle. Let's talk about this from a different perspective. So we're just gonna take a little bit step back. I try to keep it positive energy and good vibes, but it might be some episodes where we get into some negativity if that's what it calls for. It's whatever it calls for. But the vibe is the late night show vibe. That's what it's gonna be.
okay. Let's get into it, man. What we starting with this Seattle recap? I mean, I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna really be honest. After Sunday, I haven't watched NFL Network. I haven't watched anything on YouTube. I did listen to Shanahan's press conference.
Yeah.
Grant be plugging that, because they used to
Do it in live, but then
yeah,
from COVID, I think it's
on Monday.
I think it's because of COVID. I'm not sure. I don't know why they basically have allowed them to, do it via the phone, but I think it's kind of weak. But it is what it is
But Grant records the whole press
because
conference.
he's the people's reporter.
Exactly. So that's the only thing I watch. I haven't watched any NFL Network.
You did say that you watched the game last night, Monday Night Football. For us, at least last night, it's 9 p.m. in Cali time right now.
Yeah.
The late night show. I did want to start off with that game because I did have some takeaways before we even got into the Seahawks, before we even got into Cincinnati. But before we even get into that, let's roll the intro one time because I don't even think we did that. So we should roll that. Yeah, man, I had to set the mood right. So I'm watching that game. I'm watching it on and off, and like you said, I'm pretty much tuned out. It was one of those losses, the Seahawks losses. It's always to them where you just don't want to see nothing, right? So anything football related, we've pretty much tapped out. But watching on that game, and you just want to see how Mac Jones is looking. You see the conditions. It's like, okay, this is going to be a football game, as they say. And 3 passes from Mac Jones. Bill Belichick just flexing on him, just letting them know that, hey, this is still my division. I am a smarter coach. I'm going to outcoach you. I'm going to put my put my players in the right position, I should say, to execute at a high level, and that's what I do. You guys, y'all must have forgot, like Roy Jones. I am that dude, and I couldn't help but think, like, you see before the game they were showing that Mac Jones he had basically a scuba suit on, like under, that black, he was wearing that black tight, spandex vibe, like the long sleeve and everything like that. That was actually a scuba suit.
Make
And he
you
said,
make you sweat more, make you hot, like
yeah, like one of those, like those wetsuits, basically. Like, so when it's the conditions are, it's almost like you're anticipating to go into the water. That's how prepared, that in terms of the fabric and how it's gonna, keep you dry and whatnot. Like, that's basically what he was wearing. And they were showing how, like, Tom Brady, had a similar, wetsuit or whatever they call it, a scuba suit on years back when he was with the Patriots, like in some really snowy, really, bad condition game. And it's just like, you look at Bill Belichick, I've seen multiple press conferences from him where, and again, this is one of the greatest coaches of all time. We all know that. But you see so many examples of his, like, he'll go through every single angle to get an advantage, like whatever it is, and have his team prepared, whatever it is. I remember I think I sent it to you. It must have been like a 30-minute press conference he had where they asked him a simple question about long snappers and, how come they can't be other positions on the field. Like, Is it that important to have somebody designated as a long snapper when you only have 53 spots on game day? Is it more appropriate to have, for example, a linebacker or somebody do those duties? And he was just breaking down the history of the long snapper and why it's important, why that role is important, and how it's evolved. And I was just thinking watching that game and how they ran the ball 48 times, 49 times, whatever it was, and only passed it 3 times, and how they won that game that in that fashion. And just thinking about how much of a tactician Bill Belichick is, how much of every aspect of the game he thinks about. And it just brought me back to Shanahan, just thinking about Shanahan and like, all the aspects of making a good coach, right? Like X's and O's being a big part of it, but not being everything. It's also the overall strategy, the management, the in-game management, the clock management, the situational football, whether it's like, when you're going to challenge for something, when you're going to go for it on fourth down, all those sort of decisions that happen throughout the game, right? Um, and I'm just thinking about like how the Patriots didn't really go for a field goal unless it was in that range, because of the weather conditions. And I was thinking back earlier to the season when Robbie Gold got hurt and we had Mitch Wishnowsky kick a field goal. I guess that was a Seahawks game, was it not? I think that was a Seahawks game, the first one. And we had our punter kicking field goals and just aspects like that where you really think about like, like I don't know if and obviously you comparing against Belichick, but that actually was like my thought watching the game. I don't know if you had any thoughts watching the game on Mac Jones didn't do much or that game as a whole. Just sitting back and watching that game.
I mean, it was definitely the first thought was what everybody was talking about. Like it was crazy seeing how many runs, and it was like the Bills were trying to do that at the beginning. They weren't passing the ball either. And then eventually they're like, all right, no, Josh Allen, let's pass it. It damn near looked like they were copying the Patriots game plan. I mean, I don't know if that was true or not, but it's like they weren't passing the ball at all. Neither team was passing the ball. And then Josh Allen was like, all right, now let me start passing. And then he was throwing the ball in. And honestly, I wasn't tuned in very closely, but from the passes I seen, like he seemed like he was still, it wasn't like the wind was just carry, like it was impossible to throw.
Right.
Um, so but I mean, thinking about that run heavy, like it was something new. Like it didn't look like a regular football game.
Right.
Like 3rd and 6, run the ball.
Right.
3rd and 7, run the ball. Like they ran the ball literally every play except for 3 plays, I guess. But
Mhm.
so in comparison to, I got two things in comparison to Kyle. I mean, we've seen that before. Like
Yeah.
the Vikings game
Packers.
and the NFC Championship game, we've seen that before, and I think you could do that if you have an elite defense, and it looks like the Patriots have an elite defense. They're able to stop. If Josh Allen was putting points on the board, you can't do that.
Mhm.
So there's that. They play complementary football. That's what everybody says. So Belichick is a good coach, but we could always get into what's a good coach. Is it overrated? Blah
Yeah.
blah. But at the end of
Yeah.
the day, I like he is coaching good. I ain't gonna. I mean,
I feel like it's another stark reminder too that like when you look at things like wins and associate that with a quarterback, it's always kind of a slippery slope because they're obviously they're going to touch the ball more than any other player. So clearly they have a big effect. We know how hard that position is. That's the most complicated, the hardest position in sports, right? And we know there's the leadership that's involved in that position, not just like X's and O's on the field and your talent, but just it's GM, coach, quarterback. That's kind of like the trajectory of how it goes with any organization. So we know the importance of the position, but it's like that's another win for Mac Jones, and he threw 3 passes. So it's like how much credit can you give?
hey, hey, but this another thing about Mac Jones and the Patriots winning. I'm just confused. Why are they able to play like this? And literally, Mac Jones throws 3 passes, but last year they were struggling with Cam. Like what? It's like
Well, I will
they
say,
got a
I will
better.
say, I will say off top, yeah, a
I
lot
know
of
they got the
people,
pickups, but not. I mean, but think about it. On offense, it's not like they run the ball. Throw a little bit. Kendrick Bourne is their highlight receiver. Kendrick Bourne. We know who that is. They don't have. They don't. It doesn't seem like they have a high powered offense like this year as opposed to last year.
Yeah, I mean, I know on like you mentioned earlier, though, their defense is really good, and they had a lot of players opt out last year because of COVID. It almost seemed like they were, doing a restart, like intentionally. A lot of people were questioning that, like just having a hard reset. And yeah, they got some players in the offseason and things like that. I'm not a Patriot expert, but I know a lot of they probably had more players who opted out than any other team. I would assume they had a lot of players opt out. And guys like Judon on their team this year, that's a big difference for them. So, I hear what you're saying. Your point remains.
They had Gilmore last year. I mean, he got hurt. He was hurt.
Yeah, he was. I don't know how much he even played last year, to be honest. But I hear your point. But again, closing out on this whole Patriots, this is you going 4-9-3-6-5. You already know what it is. We're gonna talk about this night of football. But the last, I guess, wrapping it up for me, I kind of thought about how coaching. There's really, I look at it like there's four elements. There's the management of the game and the strategy of the game. There's the X's and O's. There's the leadership aspect, which I feel like you primarily see it like, we can't really see inside the locker room and how things are going, but we can see what we see from the press conferences, what we see with how, they interact with the media and just what they're able to show us. We see a little bit of leadership from there. And then like for the select few coaches like Belichick, and in our case, Shanahan, you can argue how much control he has, but the actual personnel decisions, so like the GM hat, if you will, which for a guy like Shanahan who has allegedly so much power in our organization, that falls with him too. And I feel like right now, the aspect that Shanahan is known for, that he hangs his hat on, is the X's and O's. And it does look like even when we have mistakes, like Jimmy G throwing 2 interceptions or whatever it may be, it does look like whenever you look at the all 22, there's guys running open, there are options, like there are things there. But then with those other aspects of coaching, it's like if you know that this is the case and these players consistently do this and are not looking at these spots and things like that, ultimately it still falls on you. However you want to break it down, like even if guys are open and players aren't executing, well, you're still putting them in those positions where they're not executing. So as a head coach, ultimately it falls with you. So that's kind of what I'm thinking about when I watch that game and
I
just
mean,
thinking about
yeah,
coaching.
I've literally heard Shanahan say that. Like if at the end of the day is if the they if it's execution, it always falls on the coach, even if the players aren't executing it.
I want
One
to
more
get to that point later on in this episode, though, when talking about Cincinnati, because I did want to break down their coaching comparison to ours with just a few things on that, taking responsibility, accountability thing. But go ahead.
All right, and check this out. One more thing, bro. I'm gonna be
Yeah,
honest. I'm gonna be honest. Like I'm gonna just be honest.
be honest.
Talking about Mac Jones, I'm really gonna be honest. Like, and I just feel like nobody. I don't want to say nobody, but a lot of people. This is like this is like something you're not supposed to say as a Niner fan,
Say it.
but as a Niner fan and how I feel right now as a Niner fan, I feel like we should have drafted Mac Jones. I feel like I don't know, and I know he just handed the ball off 3 times, but whenever I see Mac Jones play as a rookie, whenever I just be like, damn, like that. I wish we had that. I wish we had that. I think we could you could win with that type of play. That's how I feel like right now. I could be wrong. Mac Jones could turn out and he can't, he could not win a playoff game or whatever the case may be. But how I feel right now, I see the way he plays. Even Joe Montana said it. And I know that Joe Montana said like he knows how to run the West Coast offense. Like it
Yeah,
just seems
yeah, 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 yeah. But Jerry
I'm
Rice is the one
bro.
endorsing Trey Lance with the goat fuel. I know you saw that.
I feel it. I feel it. Yeah. Shout out. I mean, shout out to Trey and Jerry. You feel me? I'm not trying to hate on Trey Lance. I'm just being honest. Like I just feel like Mac Jones, man. He be looking nice to me. He be looking. He just looks different. Next level. Maybe not with the splash plays. Maybe not with the huge arm. But he just
I
looks.
will give you this, JB. I'll give you this. I, for those of y'all who don't know, Justin Fields is probably my favorite college football player of all time. I was a big fan of Justin Fields. And having said that, I saw that Mac Jones, he was a machine, like Chris Sims would say in college. And I saw that Trey Lance, a lot of potential. I was really up and down in his the whole process with him. There was times where I was really high on him, times where I was really low on him. But it's kind of like a wild card, right? And I was all for us trading everything that we did for number three. Like, and I'm a big person on principle, on philosophy, and not just the result. Like, it's easy to look at things in retrospect. It's easy to be like, oh, we should have done, but like at the time, and I was completely before we even made the trade. I said trade two future first round picks and this year's first round pick to go up to move up in the draft and get the quarterback you want. That's what I was saying, and we did that. Now, when we drafted Trey Lance, and part of the reason, like in the few days coming into it, I was, pretty excited about the potential of getting Trey Lance, was that I thought he was the perfect quarterback for Shanahan and what Shanahan wanted to do, and had the elements of like not only being able to be smart and execute the offense and run this pro style offense that he did North Dakota State, be conservative with the ball and not turn the ball over, which he didn't do in college in terms of throwing an interception, but also just the athleticism that he brought to it, right? And not just the arm strength, but being able to run. And he really was running. And so I thought, like, all those things considered, he was the best quarterback for Shanahan. But just based on how the years played off so far, and just the whole Jimmy G experience, and not playing Trey and retaining Jimmy and not getting a bridge quarterback, and still kind of doubling down, and as the season's gone on, just riding with Jimmy and being stubborn about that, which is like that's what he wants to do. That's fine. But I feel like the way that things have played out, I hear what you're saying in that regard, where it's like one of my big things with Shanahan was like, you're finally going to get the quarterback that you want. But it's like, it doesn't seem like, I'm just not 100%, maybe Shanahan just doesn't believe that Trey is that guy. He got him in. Maybe he thought all those things, but then he brought him in and is like, this isn't what I thought I would get from him. Like, seeing him in person, you never really know. So it's like, maybe he's having buyer's remorse himself. I don't know. But I do think that Mac Jones is a guy plug and play. Like if we're talking about, like, if we would have drafted him, the whole thing is about the ceiling with him, right? But at the end of the day, we know he would be playing now. You would think that. And he's better than Jimmy. I feel like Mac Jones is better than Jimmy.
And Jimmy is not trash. Jimmy
Yeah,
is not
Jimmy.
trash.
Right.
Like
He's not.
Jimmy is a starting quarterback in the NFL who has went to the Super Bowl.
Right.
And Mac Jones looks to be better than him.
Right.
Like, yeah, I'm not comparing Mac Jones to Aaron Rodgers or Pat Mahomes. But at the end of the day, Mac Jones, I don't know. It's just something about the way he plays, and it just feels like it feels hard to stop him. It feels like if you're a defense, he's gonna get the ball out so fast to the right spot, and then you're gonna get the running game going. And I just feel like, oh, that would. I mean, that's how Shanahan wants to play. And I feel like that's how you win. That's how you win them Super Bowls, man. That's that Joe Montana type vibe, that style,
Yeah.
and that's how I'm feeling. Honestly, I just had to get that off my chest and
Hey, get it off your
let it
chest,
be
man.
known that I really at this point right now. I hope a year, 2 years from now, I'm like, well, I can't believe I said that. But I just right now, I just really feel like, man, we should have picked Mac Jones. Like that's who
It's
we should
fun. It's funny what you said at the end, because I was just telling my fiance this the other day. Like, I don't know, when it comes to this sports stuff, and I guess maybe with other things in life, I actually love being proved wrong. You know what I'm saying? Like, I love like having an opinion when it comes to this team and just being completely wrong on it. Be like, oh, I was not expecting that to happen. That, like, this is actually the right decision. So prove me wrong, prove us wrong. But yeah, I hear what you're saying in that regard. I'm still riding with Trey, but I definitely hear the sentiment. Before we talk about the Seahawks breakdown, let's get to some of these comments, man. We had a few people up in here chilling with us on this late night. You want to make sure we tap in with y'all, man. What up? Appreciate y'all tapping in, man. These comment sections be fun. It's like everybody's talking to each other. They're talking to us. I don't know if they're talking to who, but it's just a good time, man. So make sure y'all tap in. Leave a comment. You already know what it is. Once again, this is Frontline Sports Media. You already know what it is, man. 49365. We on this thing Tuesdays at 9 o'clock. It is the Tonight Show. We got why does McDonald Jones need to keep Warren? He has a hand warm specialist like Jimmy. Yeah, that's definitely true. Kyle is an OC. He's not a head coach or a leader of men. He should have fired Hightower already to send a message about accountability. He doesn't hold anyone accountable. A lot of fans, I feel like, get hot, and I'm not sure if this comment was meant to be like an in-season sort of thing, like if that's how you're making the comment. But I know at different points of the season, we've heard, cut Josh Norman, fire this coach, fire special teams coach. Like, I mean, I feel it, but that's just not realistic, and there's no reason to take, measure that far. I don't think I feel like that's way too drastic of something to do.
Yeah,
in the
man.
middle of
And
the season.
you gotta think like, you know, what's his relationship like with Hightower? Like, would that be like, is that considered? We talking about leader of men. Is
Mhm.
that a leader of men when it gets rough?
Exactly.
Like, you gotta go. I'm
Exactly.
gonna cut you. I'm
Exactly.
gonna
In the
fire
middle of the season, not even
you.
play it out.
Season,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. And
so
I'm not sure if that's what you were saying,
right.
Rob, but just my 2 cents on it. What else we got, man? What up? What up? What up? Let's see. SF Niners could have had Jay Fields too. Yeah, I mean, this draft, we can go on and on. It's what, week 13 or week 13, and we're still talking about this draft. The conversation is gonna continue, and we're not gonna really know for sure until, I mean, think about if you compare Josh Allen his first year. You know what I'm saying? You never know how things are gonna go, how players are gonna progress. And it's looking like Josh Allen might have got a little bit too much love. I don't know. I'm not saying he's weak or anything, but he's kind of coming down to earth a little bit, it seems like. Mac Jones is going to Disneyland. Is it going to be this year, though? Trey Lance is our guy. Lance concussed Collins. Let's get to a few more before we get to the Seahawks. We'll see how good Mac Jones is once real defense pressures him all game, when he can see what he's made of. Yeah, I mean, I feel like the NFL's the
They
NFL. I
are,
mean,
they
guy,
are
yeah,
real defenses, bro.
yeah, he's playing against real defenses. See, I don't feel the moment they could have traded Jimmy, whoever they drafted at number 3 was going to be sitting unless Jimmy G got a season-ending injury. Yeah, I mean, look, you know, things can play out different ways. And I wasn't mad that Jimmy G started the year, but I just feel like there was opportunities for Trey to come in during the season. We are 500 right now, so I'm not sure if that's what the expectation was. I actually, one of the topics I potentially wanted to do tonight, which I didn't have it, I'm not ready to do this, but I wanted to maybe go down our schedule and really, like, as fans, like, we're talking about like expectations. That's what a lot of this comes down to, right? Expectations. How do we think the team should go? Like, how do we think the team should be? What our record should be? How we should be performing versus what we're actually doing, right? And so, like, I actually wanted to look at our schedule so far and see what games have we won that we didn't expect to win, and what games have we lost that we didn't expect to lose. When you really think about it, to see where we're at right now at this point, because I think that's a good kind of game theory exercise to really take a step back and say, like, how are we doing this year? You know what I mean?
Bro, how I feel like at the end of the day, this team is so like 1 minute we're Super Bowl contenders at the beginning of the year. The next minute we lose and people get injured. Then it's like like it's like we're not
We
even
suck again.
exactly. So I just feel like then we blow out the Rams.
Yeah.
Then we blow out the Rams, and it's like okay, like we then
Well,
we
well,
it's
this is a good transition to talking about the Seahawks before we get move on to Cincinnati, because I think it's definitely important at some point that
We're getting ready for Cincinnati.
But before we do that, we need to talk about the Seahawks. Break it down a little bit more. We did it on the post game show, but I know JB, you were saying something. My initial thought that I wanted to get off about the Seahawks situation is, why do we always lose to them? I think I was naive in thinking that we were even, like, you almost have to just every year just chalk up the Seahawks games as 2 losses. You had the 17 game schedule now. It's 15. It's a 15 game schedule. What are we going to do out of the 2 games that we know we're going to lose? And yes, maybe by the grace of God, we'll be able to find a way to overtime game winning thriller, win one of those games, one of them, not 2, but one of them. But coming into the season, just don't even get frustrated about we do not match up. I don't know what it is, because it's been different regimes and different iterations of our teams, of both our team and their team. I mean, the constant's been Russell Wilson and Pete Carroll and Josh Snyder, but still, it's been different teams. But we always lose to them. So it's basically you might as well just come into the season, just mark them off the list as losses. And it's just a frustrating thing. I was thinking about it before we came on, and I was looking at the Pittsburgh Steelers versus the Baltimore Ravens, the Oakland Raiders versus the Kansas City Chiefs. I was trying to look at different rivalry teams. I looked at the Dallas Cowboys versus the Washington Football Team in the past basically 10 years, since 2011. I was just looking at those teams and how the records have gone off. And every one of those, the lowest wins that a team has that I could find from the rivalry teams is 5. That's the lowest one. So we basically have 4 wins against the Seahawks in the past 10 years. And I want to say that's the lowest amount of wins that in a rivalry matchup of like legit rivalries. You know what I'm saying? Like legit people who actually think that they have a chance to do something, or at least in some point in their run, they had a chance to really make something happen and be a contender. So I don't know why that is with us and
But,
them.
but it's like the rivalry, like when you say the rivalry with all those other teams like
Yeah.
and franchises, and I'm definitely obviously I'm biased. I'm not a fan of them, but I just feel like the the level of dislike that it was not no more so now, but like them hardball years in Seahawks, that just made it a whole different level. And I feel like I don't know, like that. So we got this heated ass rivalry with fan bases. You said players do change, except for Russell Wilson and
Yeah.
Pete Carroll. Like they've been here, Bobby Wagner, they've been here.
And Jimmy
So I
Ward.
don't know. It's a mental thing, maybe. It's just like it's a mental thing. Like I don't. It has to be like they are in our head, and even though it's been Harbaugh, Tom Sula, Chip Kelly, now Shanahan, it just I don't know what it is, bro, but it's real, and it just the thing about the Seahawks that I actually like, I really I get bored of watching a lot of teams that aren't my team. I will sit down and watch a whole Seahawks game. I will always watch them because I want them to lose. I always want them to lose, so I'm invested into watching them. So it's kind of cool, but it's just
Yeah, well, the thing is, it's not just enjoying watching them, especially when this is their first year that they've been basically on trajectory to be under 500, right? And like we have been completely gloating in that. You know what I'm saying? We have been not only just watching the games that they're playing, but we've been going on to their fans podcast and like tapping in with Seahawks Twitter and seeing what they're talking about. And because we're just basking in their despair, we're just basking in their misfortune. We love hearing them talk about Russell Wilson as if he's just like some average quarterback that can be like, it's like we're on the other side of that. Like, what are y'all talking about? Like, this is Russell Wilson you talking about. And we've been there for every step of the way this season, and then come around to this 3-8 team playing us. And not only do we lose the game, but it's I know they had a bad game. You could say it's sloppy football from both sides, but it was kind of embarrassing when you really think about how we lost that game. It was kind of embarrassing. I mean, the punts, just how it started off to how it ended, the fake lights that they gave us at the end.
The first play of the game,
The
Trent
first play of the
Cannon
game, yes.
is like is
Having
like
flashes of Vernon Davis being going out and having flashes of any.
It was like, bro, is he gonna die? That's what it was like. Is this dude like really though? It was like, is he paralyzed? Did he just die? Like, what's
Yeah,
going on? The ambulance is coming on the field. The
I knew.
first play of
Yeah,
the game.
first play of the game. I was watching it with my fiance, and she she knows what it is with these Niners games, like how it's been this year and how things go, and with the injury stories and that too, and especially against the Seahawks. And it's like the first play of the game. She's like, "What's happening? Like, why is there not playing?" I'm like, "Well, somebody got hurt. First play of the game, like before it even really started." So
Not hurt, like just ambulance on the field
at,
stretched.
at this point though, JB, at this point though, we can talk about like, oh, it's different iterations of the team. It's we just have it's an energy thing. It's beyond the X's and the O's and the players and it's beyond that at this point. It's just that's what I'm saying. Just mark it up as a loss. A loss like this is like it's not just like one of those losses. It's like nah, if we're not gonna put the nail in their coffin this year, and this is gonna be our second loss. They're sweeping us this year. This year they're sweeping us. They have 2 wins against the rest of the NFL and 2 wins against us. Then it's like I'm over it. Like I'm over being super emotional. I mean, obviously I'm still gonna care about this and care about that game and whatnot. But my point is like coming into next year, it is what it is. But I will say, I was mentioning this in the post game show. With most coaches, when you go to a new regime, yes, you want to win a national championship. Yes, you want to win a Super Bowl. Yes, you want to go to the playoffs, all those things. But rule number one, usually for a head coach in a new regime, is beating your rival. You want to set the tone and beat your rival. That's like, and I would think like, you would just think Jed York would just like, man, like Shanahan, like we saw what you did against Atlanta, or we saw what you did against the Seahawks when you were with Atlanta. Like, yeah, we're really excited to have you, come over here and share some of that secret formula with us and, basically shift the tides in this series and get things back on our end. And that has not been the case for Shanahan. I think 2-8 in his regime, in his era, facing the Seahawks, and it's pitiful. It's pathetic. I expect more. And then it's not just losing in a game like this. This was more than a loss. It was embarrassing. It was embarrassing. So that's I guess my overall. You have any other takeaways from the Seahawks loss that you wanted to get on?
No, man. I think we got it.
Real quick, man. How would you grade the quarterback play of Jimmy G in that game?
Let's see. I honestly haven't really thought about it too closely. I haven't really, I'm trying to remember.
You're trying to get it off your head. You're trying to wash
Yeah,
yourself.
I know he had the two bad picks. I mean, that to me just, those two picks just, I feel like that just puts a dent into anything he did. But I mean, it's like I don't want to say other than that, but he's Jimmy G. So he threw two picks and then he had some good throws and at the end of the game, I was like, damn, like I feel like I wasn't mad that we were throwing the ball. I wasn't like let's keep running.
Mhm.
I wasn't like let's stop throwing and run it. I was like, no, let's keep throwing. Um and then I mean, yeah, I did see on Twitter. I did see on Twitter that the fourth down throw, like bro was really open, Sherfield, and that probably would have been a touchdown if
Yeah,
he didn't.
he was open. Yep. Dunlap did a hell of a play. And what are you gonna do? It's a Seahawk game. Last we had the 2019 Greenlaw stop, and they had this. And yes, there was holding on Sherfield on the play before.
You heard Shanahan's talk about that play, like
No,
talk
I
about.
didn't.
He talked about he didn't talk about the holding, but he said that he felt like Sherfield. He was like he didn't say. I don't know if I say it, you might take it in a way where he was criticizing him, but I don't think he
Mm,
was criticizing him. I think he was saying like he was like Sherfield made a hell of a catch against the Vikings last Sunday, and he was
mhm,
saying like we thought that he could have
mhm.
got that one. He almost got that one. He could have got that one again, and so
It
you
would
know.
have been interesting to see if Juwan Jennings was in that position, like, because I feel like that's a Juwan Jennings type play where it's just like physical on physical. Somebody's just on you, like, get up and make that play. But to Shanahan's credit, yeah, I mean, we saw Sherfield make that play on the right side on that little post route last week against the Vikings. So you win some, you lose some, but it didn't need to get to that point. I hate that the game was like close because it wasn't really. Like the plays by their tight end, his name is slipping my head right now.
Everett.
But yeah, Gerald Everett. The plays by him, the fumble and the basically interception that he caused at the goal line both times. I mean, that game could have been a lot different, and we wouldn't have it. We wouldn't have had a chance to tie it up or potentially go for the win if we would have scored and went for two. Following that, if any beat writers are watching, maybe I should tweet at Grant. I would have appreciated a question, and I'm not sure if Shanahan would have answered it, but I would have liked to have known would he have gone for it if we would have scored.
Bro, you gotta listen to the Monday press
Well,
conference.
I already told you that I was tuning out in this game, a lot of it. What did he say?
He said this. He said they asked him that question,
Hmm.
and he said like the way I was feeling like at that moment, yeah, I was about. But then he said yeah, I would have gone for it. But basically, but he also was saying like he don't even feel like really talking about it because this is hella hypothetical and they
Hmm.
didn't score. So he really wasn't, put in that position. It's like it wasn't like an absolute yes, but he said yes. But then he's saying, but I don't even want to get that answer because, um, I
It
wasn't
didn't
in that
happen.
position
Right,
and
right,
it
right,
didn't happen. So like, I don't know, like, basically like we don't know, but
right,
he did say yes.
right. Okay.
Very Shanahan. And
Okay. So basically, we might have lost on the 2-point conversion then instead of the incompletion by batted down. Okay. So let's get. I mean, you already know what it is. What week it is. It's time to not dwell on the past and
It's nothing about the past, nothing about the future. It's right now we're preparing for Cincinnati.
So that's what it is, man. Cincinnati week. What are your initial thoughts about this team, the Cincinnati Bengals team? 7-5 right now. What's their record? 7-5, I want to say, or is it 7-6? One of the two. just initial thoughts. I know we've talked a lot offline about Joe Burrow, his ascension. We were talking about Mac Jones earlier. I feel like when Mac Jones was coming out, I compared him to a Joe Burrow, except a little bit less athletic. And I just feel like the thing with Joe Burrow is, to me, it's intangible stuff. Like, yeah, he can make the throws and he can do all that, but I just feel like he has a toughness to him that's underrated, and he has like a swag to him that's underrated. Like, it's very different from Mac Jones. To me, is like on the same plane as a Kirk Cousins in terms of, like, they're good players, and but I don't know if they're really inspiring the team like that, like doing those intangible things. I think Mac Jones can do it with his work ethic and just putting his head down. It was interesting listening to the game on the Manning telecast, because they were basically saying that Peyton Manning tried to interview Mac Jones. I don't know if it was for the actual game, like for the Monday Night Football, or if it was for something else. But he basically said that his agents and his team denied the interview because all he's trying to do is focus on football, which I thought was really interesting. Like, answer, like, just putting in that work is what he's focusing on. And we have our quarterback sitting on the bench getting goat fuel sponsorships, but that's fine. I'm not hating. I'm just, pointing out that difference. I'm just pointing out. I'm not even hate. I'm not even. That came off like I was hating.
No, hey, bro. At the end of the day, like, it just, like, yeah,
Say it. Yeah.
It's like, man, like, obviously, like, yeah, it's like, yeah, you could make an argument, like, get your money, like, whatever, but then you can make the argument, like, damn, we should have got the other guy. He over here locked in, not doing interviews, not he's locked in. He's locked in. He locked in, and one like, where right now, who has a lead? Mac Jones. Like, Mac Jones has a lead over everybody. But yeah, go ahead, man.
Yeah, no, it's a competitive sport, so everything is, you got to look at it that way. But yeah, I just, that Mac Jones seemed to be that type of guy, but Joe Burrow, to me, he just seemed like he has more of that Jimmy G. I feel like Jimmy G even has like that's one of my favorite qualities about Jimmy G. Honestly, is like the intangibles. Like, it seems like guys really play for him, and like, I just feel like he has a different for being as highly paid as he is, for being a quarterback, for being, this, he just does act like one of the guys. You know what I'm saying? You can kind of put that different ways, but Jimmy G does have that energy. And I feel like Joe Burrow kind of has that swag too. Like, he's very tough. He's underrated, I feel like, with how tough he is. He runs a lot, actually. At least every time I'm watching the Bengals, I'm seeing Joe Burrow just get smacked. He needs to learn how to go down. He already tore his ACL, with that vicious hit against the Washington football team last year. So he already has that. He's wearing that brace, but he still is out there just trying to make plays however he can. And yeah, I feel like they have a lot of weapons. You look at the wide receivers, it's one of the best wide receiver groups in the league. We've already played the Seahawks and the Vikings in our past two games. I mean, it's not going to stop. And we can get to it, but one of the biggest takeaways from that Seahawks loss is Emmanuel Mosley. And, without him, with him going out for a game like this, when we're going against T. Higgins, we're going against Chase, we're going against Boyd, we're going against Mixon. They got P. Ryan in the backfield as well. They have players. They got the tight end, who's a good pass catcher as well. They have weapons. And, I just feel like you can talk about their weapons. You can talk about how good they are, the skilled players. But really, at the end of the day, it comes down to Joe Burrow, speaking about their offense. And, I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of Joe Burrow. I feel like between him and some of the other quarterbacks that we have in this league, between Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, obviously Patrick Mahomes, and, I was watching the Chargers Bengals game last week before our game came on. I wasn't watching Red Zone. I was just specifically watching that game and seeing these two young quarterbacks, and the league's in a good spot with these guys. So, what are your thoughts on Cincinnati, like your initial thoughts overall, and just kind of what are your takeaways?
I mean, yeah, what you talking about, Burrow, and then they skill position players, really, and their strengths are going against our weakness. You feel me? And hey, the press conference on Monday, I was like, wow. I'm like, okay. I'm like, I don't know, man. This to me was interesting. Shanahan was talking about, they kind of talked about the corner situation and Mosley and being hurt, and he was saying, like, oh yeah, it's time for he was basically calling, saying
The
that
rookies.
No, Ambry had a chance to start this week, not only over Lenore, but over Norman. He said Ambry is pushing both those guys.
Like he's in practice just like pushing them.
Like he said, because they asked him, like
I was making a joke. That was a
they
bad
might have
joke.
asked him about Ambry, but yeah,
Yeah.
basically like that Ambry is, been doing. He didn't even say, but it's like I don't believe it. I don't believe that Ambry Thomas is playing good.
I don't believe it either, but I will say he is a rookie. He's been terrible from what we've seen. I've not been impressed, especially for how high he was drafted. It seems like a bust. It's his rookie year, so it's tough to say that. But just being honest, I feel like honesty has been the policy for this show so far. Say it with your chest. That's what we're doing. He does not look good. However, he is a rookie. I feel like it seems like I will say one takeaway from this team and getting to like coaching and the management of a team and the personnel and all those sort of things. It seems like when guys come into a game, they are not prepared to play. Whether that's Benjamin fumbling on the kick return or whether that's a corner coming in for somebody who's injured and them not being in the right coverage, it just doesn't seem like overall guys are ready to play. I'm not talking about like, they are playing, poorly and that's basically means they're not ready to play. I'm talking about making mistakes to the point where like, yeah, you can, not be the best player or you can, not, but when you're in the wrong positions and things like that, from what I can see, at least, it just feels like guys aren't ready to play all the time. And so maybe there's a difference when, a guy is injured and they know coming into the week that, okay, we're being prepared to play. We know coming into this game, we are going to be playing. And so basically the point I'm making is I'm going to give him a shot. Like I'm going to come in with positive energy for him. Like obviously he's on our team. We want to see him play well. He has a chance to redeem himself. It's his rookie season. Like step up. This is an opportunity.
That would be wonderful if he could come in and be a starter.
Serviceable. Yeah.
Yeah, but it just to me that's like I don't know how to look
at. Who
do
you think is going to start at corner for us next week? I think it's going to be Dante Johnson.
Yeah, I mean, that's
that is very encouraging.
It's like Lenore is cool, but I just feel like Lenore. I don't know. It's just something missing with Lenore. And Ambry Thomas, like he looked pretty bad. And he didn't look good in preseason and from the little camps I seen. So I'm like, okay, so I hope he would be able to push him, but I don't know. Like Shanahan was talking about, he had a great day on special teams. He had 3 tackles, and I'm like,
oh, he was getting real juice, like you said in the post game. Ambry was getting real juice on his special team play. So maybe that's what Shanahan needed to see: that energy, that dog in him, that dog in him,
that dog, huh?
Yeah.
Ambry, but yeah, man. I mean, honestly though, for real though, that's where I'm worried about. And it's crazy though, bro. It's so crazy because I just feel like with football, there's a lot of times where you stress out over like how our corners gonna guard these guys, and and then it end up being fine. Like it end up just working out. Like
right.
So I don't know though, but that's what I'm worried about.
Yeah, but there's also those teams that usually I feel like I don't know when you're going against like the Aaron Rodgers of the world. That's where it really shows its head because those guys are gonna hunt. They're going to hunt. If they see you have somebody like a rookie coming, you remember when we played Miami last year we were starting somebody off the street. Instantly, teams are attacking. And obviously, that wasn't an Aaron Rodgers quarterback. That's Fitzpatrick. But usually veteran, they're going to attack and see the weakness and go for it. So I hear you. Sometimes it just doesn't. I mean, on the flip side, right? If it's like us going against Seattle's corners who are they? Who name a Seattle corner. I think they got some Nigerian back there.
DJ Reed.
Okay, well, all right. DJ Reed, good one. Yes, that's fair enough. DJ Reed, and I think they have they got Amadi. I don't know. They got a Nigerian back there.
And then I think they got Brown. I think his name is Brown.
Yeah, from Oklahoma State. So Trey Brown. Yeah, so we know some of their corners, but still, like their corners, it's been much maligned that their corners have not been the best. But when we're playing them, it doesn't seem like we're just making hella plays on their corners. I mean, things were open, but we weren't just absolutely just feasting and attacking like that. And Jimmy's still throwing 2 picks. So I don't know. I'm not to be negative. Let's keep it on the positive tip, man. One thing I wanted to talk about in the Cincinnati game, I wanted to actually show you a video of their head coach, Zach Taylor, Zach Taylor, former college quarterback, assistant for Sean McVay. I believe that's the tree that he came from. And I think this is his third year as a Cincinnati head coach. And, I was thinking in my head, basically, like with all the complaints I have about Shanahan, and I broke down those areas of coaching, and I feel like, his main thing is X's and O's, and we still can't even fully. I mean, it looks like the X's and O's are there, but maybe the personnel and the management of players and things are the reason why the X's and O's aren't flourishing as they should be when guys are open and things like that, right? But I was thinking in my head after the Seattle game, like, okay, like all the crap I talk about Shanahan, and when I jokingly call him Mike's son, which is a phrase that you've coined, when he's not really at his best, he might deserve Mike's son right now, actually, to be honest. But when I call him those things and when I think about him in that way, I'm like, which coaches would I really honestly rather have than him, though, when you really think about it? Because it's like one of those things where I can talk bad about, I can talk bad about you. I can joke with you and stuff, but you my cousin. I ain't gonna let anybody else do that. You know what I'm saying? It's like the same thing with your coach. Like, that's my coach at the end of the day. That's our coach. So I'm rocking with him. But I'm just really thinking about it, like, how many other coaches would I take over him? And not really even going through that full exercise, but how do other coaches act in similar situations? Like, one of my biggest frustrations with Shanahan this year has been the post-game press conferences and just him with media in general and how he acts, because he eludes so much. I guess the word is privilege. He eludes so much. Just, I know what I'm doing. How dare you question me? This is what it is. I know you were saying that he acknowledged, the execution thing falls on the coaches, and I have seen in recent weeks. I mean, how could you not be humble when your team is losing and when you're not, have a winning record, and you know what your record is in the past 5 years, and you've only had one winning season? Like, how could you not be at least a little bit humbled by that? But at the same time, it just seems like the accountability. We know what it is. Like, we know how Shanahan's going to come to that podium. Jimmy G missed this play. He should have checked down. It was a bad, unacceptable interception. You hear that so much. By no means was it perfect. Just kind of like on and on and on with that whole vibe, but not a lot of like, it's on me. So I just wanted to show as an example, right? I was just curious. I was like, I wonder how Zach Taylor sounds like in his press conference, because I've never heard him. I don't really know too much about him at all. So I just wanted to show you a clip and get your thoughts on basically like, some of the things that he said after their pretty bad loss against the Chargers on Sunday. Let's see.
Can't hear it.
You said you can't hear it?
Nope.
At all?
Nope.
Oh man. Well, basically, I'll summarize it for you. Essentially, he's talking about, and I'll put this link in the description so y'all can check it out yourselves. But basically, what he was talking about is, I think he got asked a question about some sort of like bad clock management that happened in the game, where I think they took a delay of game, I believe. And he was just basically breaking down the situation, like what the process is for him getting the play calls into the quarterback, how the process worked, what specifically happened in this situation, and why it was a delayed game, and how it was completely on him and it was like unexcusable. Then a little bit later in the press conference, they asked him about I think it was like another clock management or some sort of time situation, a down situation. I'm not exactly sure the situation in the game, but he was basically just taking accountability and like not just saying like, oh, that's on coaches, we got to coach better. It was more of like an elaborate response on like exactly what was happening. I feel like so many times in Shanahan's press conferences, you'll ask him, the reporters will ask him a question about the game, like what happened, and he'll just summarize what happened in the game. You ever notice that? Like, he'll be like, well, we had it on 4th down, and then it was we had the punt, and then they got the ball, and then they scored, and then we got the ball, and then we fumbled, and then that gave them a really easy field position to get a field goal, and then we came back down the field, and we were able to score a touchdown, but it was too late by that point. He'll just summarize literally like what happened in the game without giving you anything to it. And Zach Taylor was like, they were asked some sort of situation about the game, and he was actually breaking down the thought process. And not only that, but like what was happening in the game. He was like, well, we were down by this much at this point. So like really the Chargers were able to, they were able to do every blitz in the book for us. And, again, this is like communication stuff. So a bit of this is like maybe Shanahan and he's admitted to it as much as himself. Like he's just not that great of a speaker and a communicator. Like, and to a certain extent, yeah, that's fine. Like that's not what you specialize in. Like that's okay. But when you think about the landscape of the league, like how many coaches would you say that for? Like, isn't that like a part of a little bit of part? Like, I'm not saying it's a major part or something like that, but isn't that a part of the job to communicate, to be a leader, to like, I just feel like, and there's a lot of aspects of leader. I'm not saying that just because Shanahan isn't the most eloquent at his press conferences, that means that he's not a good leader. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that when you look at other coaches, it's refreshing sometimes to see a press conference that's, even after a big loss, isn't contentious. I guess we had audio issues. I'll put this in the link, but again, like I think for all the faithful out there, it would do you a service to check this out because it's refreshing and it's interesting as perspective to see, this coach compared to Shanahan. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that because you couldn't hear the actual audio, but just something I wanted to point out. JB, you there? I think JB freezing up on me one time. Look like you having some Wi-Fi issues. But yeah, that's just my 2 cents. I don't know if anybody in the comment section has seen something similar when you're looking at like coaches and, just taking a look around the other coaches in the league and how they are at their press conferences, how they handle themselves at the podium, and those sort of things. So it's just interesting, for me to think about that. Looks like JB's trying to get back on. But as he's getting back on, we kind of talked about the weapons that Cincinnati has. That's going to be a big challenge for us in this game upcoming. The big problems internally for us, we kind of hit on it a second ago, but their strength is their wide receiver group and the running back in Joe Mixon, who's been one of the best, probably a top 4 running back in the league this year. Going against our depleted secondary, right? So I don't know if he had an update on Jaquiski Tarr. I know he came back in the game with that ankle injury. It looked like DK had stepped on him. What up, JB? I got you back in here. Just talking about the more so our side going against Cincinnati. We kind of touched on the big loss of Emmanuel Mosley and how big that potentially can be, especially in a game like this with the skill positions that Cincinnati has. The other update we got was that Debo, it's kind of 50-50. Maybe this is coach speak and maybe he's just going to play and we're just trying to keep Cincinnati on their heels. But, I think there is a good chance that, Debo doesn't play because when you look at the remainder of our schedule, you want to make sure that Debo's as healthy as can be to finish off the season. And that I feel like when you look at the remaining schedule for us, it's really important that we win the games that we're supposed to win. I think that's really important because I think, honestly, probably 8 wins, I should say, is probably going to get you into the playoffs this year with how things are going in the NFC and just like in terms of what the playoff race is right now. So I do feel like Debo's probably not going to play. We'll see. But again, that's going to be a huge issue for us to, kind of figure out as we move forward and look at, the remaining schedule. I mean, after Cincinnati, we got Atlanta. We have to win that game. We have to, especially at home. We already know what's happened before when we were supposed to be at Atlanta at home recent years in 2019, and that didn't happen. The Tennessee game on a short week, that's going to be a tough one because it's Thursday night football and Tennessee has, they're a competitive team. But the Texans game, I mean, you couldn't have 2 easier layups than the Atlanta Falcons and the Houston Texans. We have to win those games. And if we win those games, at the very least, we should have 8 wins.
If we don't, the hot seat gonna be there again.
Absolutely, it has to because those wins you have to get. And I think if we do that, then even if Philly gets on a hot streak, even if Minnesota gets on a hot streak, we beat those 2 teams. We have the head-to-head. I'm not too concerned about Atlanta and Carolina. Stranger things have happened, but I'm not as concerned about those teams. So I really feel like as long as we win against Atlanta and as long as we win against Houston Texans, we should be good. This game, I hate to say it, but it's kind of like a bonus. Every game is important. Every week matters. You already know what it is, but I just feel like you can't risk having Debo in this game if he's on the fringe of being healthy because we know how he's been in the past. So those are really the biggest, I think, things in this game is really Debo and Mosley. Like, and not only that, but the running back position. Because look, man, I don't know what the NFL does, how they do what they do, but their whole concussion protocol situation is suspect at least. Okay, he clearly, in terms speaking of Elijah Mitchell, he clearly got hit in the head. Went out the game, came back, and now they're saying it's concussion. He's in the concussion protocol. He's had plenty of injuries this year. We'll see if he's able to battle through that. But even if he can't go, it looks like Jeff Wilson has some, lingering knee issue. And so, we're probably going to get some random running back to play for us this week that we've never seen before, honestly. And he's probably going to get some carries. I mean, we got Jermichael Hasty is our only fully healthy running back right now. And
But
so
I think what's his name gonna play though?
who? Elijah? I mean,
Yeah.
we'll see.
I mean, yeah,
We'll
no, he did. I think all right with the.
It's concerning the fact that like Trey Sermon's on IR as well. Like I'm not sure. I feel like that might have been like a roster move IR. I'm not sure if he was really, but I mean, it really hurts us now because he can't play. But go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, Trey Sermon, Trey Sermon.
Trey Sermon. Yeah, we've had our share of stories with the storylines with this draft class. I mean, Aaron Banks hasn't even been able to really get on the field consistently, and we haven't really noticed him at all. So that's another one that has just been a disappointment so far. But it is what it is. We'll see what happens against the Cincinnati Bengals. Do you I know it's Tuesday night for those tapping in with us right now. Once again, you are tuned in to Frontline all the time. You already know what it is, Frontline Sports. This is 49365, The Tonight Show. Tuesday nights, 9 p.m. Cali time. You already know what it is. Do you have any thoughts on predictions for the game? I know it's Tuesday, but do you have any, what's your initial thoughts on what you think is going to happen?
Like I said, the vibe that I'm just worried about, the DBs and their receivers and Joe Burrow. So, I have no idea. I really don't know their defense that well. I know they got that safety that's pretty good. But I don't really know their defense, so I don't know, if we could run the ball on them. Like, I don't know about that. And, I just want to see, Fred Warner, is he going to be back? And if so, is like what's the health level of Fred Warner and Debo, going forward. Like I just feel like those once you start pulling hamstrings, start pulling groins, that to me is hard, bro. It's hard to
Soft tissue.
you like it just doesn't go away after 1 week, 2 weeks. It's not like, oh, it's gone. My hamstring's gone, my groin's gone. Like you're gonna be
It's
playing
gonna
with
linger, yeah, and you're gonna play with it. Yep, and it's you're not gonna be. And those are players that got to be effective. Like they got to be full speed doing what they're doing. Aziz though,
Oh, yeah.
that's one thing that we did not talk about.
Yeah, Aziz is like damn, like what? Where did this come from?
We also had. I wonder how that linebacker's doing. That we also had. I don't know if he was. I think he was also undrafted, if I'm not mistaken. That we traded to the Denver Broncos in the offseason. If you remember, he was playing pretty well for us in the preseason, rocking that 53, looking like Bowman out there or something.
Yeah.
So I'm interested to see like what. But it seems like it's another stark example of like. It's been said before on different content creators, but it's a point that I've championed for a while. Like the linebacker position, the running back position, it's like we're able to, number one, pop them out like it's nothing. And number two, like they're just not valued positions where you want to draft super high or pay a big contract to. I was fine with giving Fred Warner the contract that he got because he's a leader on our team. And especially, I think, from what you did with Buckner, you have to keep like the leaders on your team. Otherwise, you're running the risk of coming off as a team that's not really being cognizant and not really being aware of how that looks when you take like a leader on your team and just trade him and do all that. Like it's just not unless you're Bill Belichick, it's a hard precedent to set, and to make sure that everybody falls in line, I feel like. So that's another reason why I wasn't tripping off the Fred Warner contract, but he hasn't really been, playing up to it.
I'm really interested to see what happens with Fred Warner. Like I feel like he's really at a crossroads. He hasn't been playing that well. He got injured.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he last year playing great. He was the only one who didn't get injured last year. He never got injured. And then like this year it's just like, wait, that level of play isn't up to par like it's been.
Mhm.
He get injured, and then Aziz is like, whoa, his stock is going up,
Rocketing up. Yeah.
and so it's just like, okay,
And we
well,
still got Greenlaw.
yeah, Greenlaw, but I don't know with Fred. It's just like, bro, like we had you in a certain light, like you were in the light of like, okay, you're like, but to it was like Boza, Fred, like they're both up there type deal, and this year's like, whoa, like definitely came back down, and then like I said, so I'm interested to see.
So in that sense, like I feel like that, I almost get the feeling that like Fred might want to be trying to rush back, to like, like no, like I need to establish that this is my spot. I need to remind people of who I am. I mean, if he's not healthy to go, he can't go. But I kind of get the sense that maybe that is a storyline for him. I'm not sure how his motivations lie and like if that's a factor at all. But you see how Aziz is playing. You want to go back out there. You want to get back out there and show people who you are. But I do feel like whether Fred plays or not, this is going to be a huge game for Aziz because now it's like, can you put it together? Because if we see another, high level performance, it's like, okay, at this point, like we definitely need to extend him. And then what do we do from there? How do we shake this up? Are any of these guys, assets that we can use to, are we going to build off of them or are we going to try to build off of them and get off of them, so to speak? So it'd be interesting to see like how that shakes up. So there's a lot of things to watch out for in this Bengals game. But again, faithful, get something nice to drink for the game. If you roll up, do that. Like, just vibe out for the game. We're gonna see how it goes. It's not Seahawks week, and if we do lose because of the injuries and all the things, it's not the end of the world. At the end of the day, we just got to get into the dance. That's the goal. That's the goal in our short-term view of the season. And I think
I'm not going for that, man. I'm not going for let's like it's okay if we lose, we could still make the playoffs. Like I don't like what to do what?
yeah, I mean, I'm just saying that's the short-term goal of the season. I'm with you. I feel like this whole thing is for what? Like, why is Jimmy on the like? It's funny. Like, I was listening to the morning show with Croc earlier. I think it was yesterday's show, and he was talking about he kind of flipped his position right now, where he feels like the 49ers should start Trey Lance moving forward, and I feel like that's kind of like there's a difference between what you want them to do, like what you feel like is right, versus what you think the team should do, or what you know what I'm saying, or what you think they're actually going to do. Because I think like Shanahan's in a multitude of ways, he's made decisions that I haven't agreed with. So like now the decision of like continuing to play Jimmy, it's not like I'm just making. It's not like I would be having that opinion of, oh, keep Trey on the bench because that's what I want to do. Like, no, I would want to start Trey from the beginning or get a bridge quarterback and then eventually have Trey take over or, yada, 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 all these different scenarios. But like, because we're in this position that we're in and you have put Trey on the bench for so long and you've been going with Jimmy and we're 6-6, again, like expectations versus realities, like we're still in the thick of things. Like, I don't know what you thought we would be, but we're at that point where we're 500. So are you going to really upset the apple cart now? Like, I feel like this is a really weird time to just like, then throw in Trey. I'd be with it. I'd be down for that, but I don't think that's feasible based on what Shanahan's already said too. He's pretty stubborn, so I don't see.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's like he's riding with
He's
his
riding
decision.
out. He's riding out with his decision.
I made this decision, and I'm gonna stick with it. I'm not about to, I think that like I'm not about to turn my back on Jimmy type.
Right.
Like he's trying to keep it like Jimmy's the quarterback.
Copacetic. Yeah, absolutely. That's
Like
what
Jimmy's
he's going with. Absolutely. So I feel like the only chance that I think Trey is getting in the rest of this season is if Jimmy gets hurt. And, we are due. I mean, it's been a few games since he's gotten injured. So hopefully nothing happens, but he does often get injured. So that is still an opportunity for Trey. He's got to be ready. Make sure he's tapping in, drinking that goat fuel. Well, I don't want to be doing that because I don't know if they cut that check. We got to get that sponsorship right. But yeah, I know he's doing those commercials with the GOAT himself, Jerry Rice, if y'all haven't seen. But yeah, man, that's going to be it for the show, I think, unless there's anything else you wanted to hit on, JB. It was a good, solid hour with the faithful. Once again, shout out to Croc. This is Frontline Sports Media. It's Frontline all the time with 49365. You already know what it is. My name is Biamechi, and as always, I'm with JB.
Hey, we out. Faithful, stand up, baby.
Tap in with your boys. You already know what it is. We on to Cincinnati.
We're on to Cincinnati.